Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Mess. So, Derek, and I'm here to tell you today that the day has finally come. Because when I talk about N64 decomps, recomps, resource ports, i.e. PC ports, and I ask you guys what's the one game you would love to see run on PC if you had your way, every single time I answer that question, I have one and one answer only, and that is Castlevania Legacy of Darkness. That is because I've always felt that this game is way better than it ever got reviewed for, but because it did have some performance issues and some people weren't sure what to make of it, it never really got into the upper echelon of something like an N64 game review would. But now that we have a static recomp work in progress, those days are finally here because we're going to be able to play this thing on PC as well as a Mac build, and that is absolutely awesome. Just be aware that this is still in development. It's going to have a few bugs here or there, but the developer contacted me on Twitter so he could show me the overall work, and now in the GitHub link below there is both a Mac and a Windows build, so Mac users out there aren't going to be left out in the cold because I know that happens a lot. And honestly, Legacy of Darkness getting a static recomp is one of the things I always wanted to see in 2026, and I'm glad we're here. Before I get too far involved though, do me a huge favor down below, hit like and subscribe and ring that notification bell, definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, I got a Patreon link down below as well. And just so you know, this video is going to be comprised of two different captures, one 4K on Windows and one 1080p without graphical enhancements from the Mac build. And big thanks to developer Flipperama86 for sending over some test footage as well, because initially it was on Mac only, and my Mac setup does not love to capture stuff that runs on the desktop. It always just basically hitches and throws up a security alert. It drives me absolutely insane. And you will see here again, like I said, still in active development. There's going to be a visual glitch here or there, but it really is still an alpha preview of what is to come. And for being an alpha, I did play around on it on Windows before I captured this voiceover as well, and I will say it's running stably, the frame rate is great, and it really feels just like a better, more fluid version of Castlevania Legacy of Darkness. And that's something that this game has always needed, because honestly I've always felt like I love the game, but I totally get why some people just don't gravitate towards it, because it can be a little bit of an experience that fights you based upon the dipping frame rate and just kind of feeling laggy around the edges. And that really is what I talk about when I talk about static recomps and source ports for N64 games. They modernize a game about as much as it possibly can be modernized. They increase the frame rate and make it a more playable experience. And on N64, a lot of times developers prioritize good-looking graphics versus actual fast gameplay. And because this game does actually use the enhancement pack to get a higher resolution, the game could always be prettier, but that was definitely at the cost of the frame rate, because when you use that expansion pack, it definitely tanks the frames in certain scenes in the game. And yes, on something like Analog 3D or Mr. FPJ, we can overclock and get past a lot of that, but we're never going to get to a close to 60 frame per second locked experience like you're seeing here on the PC port. And moving back to the 4K enhanced footage as well, you will see that this looks absolutely spectacular and performs well. And the nice thing is, with this recomp, you're going to be able to have the original graphics, you can have enhanced, you can have different aspect ratios, you can really decide what you want. The only thing it's not going to change is the fact that this is still Castlevania Legacy of Darkness, so sometimes you're going to end up falling to your death just because the game decides that's what's going to happen to you. But I'm sure in the future mods could be done to some of the controls to maybe make some of the platforming a little bit easier, because I think that's really what frustrated people with this game when it first came out, the fact that sometimes, especially on the platforming segments, the camera would be in the wrong spot, or sometimes you feel like you would land a jump but your character would just end up falling to their death. But just take a look at this footage here. It is fast, it is fluid, it is absolutely crystal clear, way above the resolution of what an N64 console could draw, even with high-res mode. It is in widescreen, and everything seems to be looking relatively good. I will say every once in a while you'll see some of the characters actually kind of clip in and out of existence at the edges of the screens. That's probably just a level of detail or a culling thing where it's not really supposed to be drawing them all that far off to the edges. And again, with future updates, I am sure that would be something that could be handled relatively easily, because Flipperama86, as far as the first draft is concerned, has definitely done an incredible job. Let's do the first of two soundtrack samples, because the music in the game is great and it needs to sound good here. And I'll be right back with a lot more Castlevania recomp for you. I mean, to my ears, both the soundtrack as well as the sound effects sound exactly what I would expect out of something like Legacy of Darkness, but I always love to say I have two tin ears, so if you hear anything that doesn't sound good, leave me a comment down below. And additionally, if you want to start testing and playing this one, the GitHub link is in the description. If you find bugs, always go over and start an issue ticket, nicely of course, and let the developer know what you found, maybe even with some photographic evidence if you can get it. That way they can improve it even further down the line, because the reality situation is finding every single bug, especially the small ones, can be very difficult when you're one person working at a job. And that's kind of the thing about these. It is a big community effort to get them buttoned up, to find all of the issues and make sure it's as good as it possibly can be. So if you find something, make an issue ticket. It definitely helps developers. But as we kind of play around in the introductory sequence of the game here, again, I love Legacy of Darkness. I've always felt it's much better than its reputation actually gets it. And it's one of those things I've always said that a recomp or a PC port, as far as the source port would be concerned, would always make this game more playable and more enjoyable for everyone. And I am 100% here to say that's exactly the situation going on. And you are going to be able to toggle, like I said, between 4:3 and 16:9 aspect ratios. You can enhance the graphics, you can turn anti-aliasing on or off, and you can go from the original frame rate to a higher frame rate, basically matching your panel's frame rate or whatever it is you would like to use. And that alone is going to make something like Legacy of Darkness just that much better, because I will say on real hardware the frame rate could definitely affect your performance in the game. It wasn't one of those games that would dip a few frames, but it wouldn't really matter as far as your gameplay experience is concerned. It would actively fight you and sometimes make it very muddy to control whatever character you have here. And don't forget, there is a code, the Konami code, in fact, so you can unlock all of the characters at the beginning of the game, so you don't have to play through every single character's storyline to be able to get to the next one, and that will definitely be useful for testing this and seeing exactly how it works as well. But again, as far as an early draft is concerned, of course there's going to be a couple of visual glitches, and I would say they happen mostly in the 16:9 aspect ratio, and 4:3 not so much, and every once in a while something isn't going to load in that should be loading in. But moving back to the standard 4:3, not enhanced graphics, there is something charming about the muddy textures of the N64 and the original Legacy of Darkness here as well on display, and it is just one of those things. This game has a ton of charm, and I really think it was a very pretty game, and it was the realized version of what developers at Konami wanted to make for Castlevania 64. And maybe one day you'll see a CV64 recomp as well. But honestly, if you're going to start with one game, why not start with Legacy of Darkness? Because it basically entails almost the entirety of the first game, along with all of the additional content and campaigns that Legacy of Darkness brought to the table as well. And getting a static recomp of that is something I've been waiting a long time for. Very high up on the list, just like Bomberman Hero, which we just got a recomp for. And that just is exciting stuff. Would you leave me a comment down below and you tell me, did you ever play Castlevania 64 or Legacy of Darkness back in the day, and what did you think? I loved them back then and I love them now. But one more soundtrack sample and I'll be right back with just a little bit more. So yeah, again, in the audio department, there really isn't anything there that makes me think that I would say to the dev that there needs to be any improvements. But of course, on the visual side of thing and on the bug side of thing, there's still going to be a few here and there. But in my playthrough on Mac, when I was getting a capture that was definitely dropping a ton of frames where the window wasn't, I had absolutely no issues whatsoever, just kind of playing around with stuff. And that's because I tried to capture on Mac before the Windows build went up overnight, because the dev told me they were going to be making one as well. And as far as Linux in the future, you're just going to have to wait and see. Right now, it is Mac and Windows, but the fact that Mac even got involved in the first place, definitely a fun time. And just so you know, because I do like to let you guys in on how things are made, there is a little bit of Claude in the background here. If you go to the developers repo, they've got a ton of projects, a lot of HDMI coding for Raspberry Pis actually that don't involve that. So they definitely know what they're doing. It's just being used as kind of an aid to expedient up some of the Charlie work, for lack of a better term. But I always let you guys know that so you can kind of feel about it however you want. I'm just here to share the news. And honestly, Legacy of Darkness getting a PC port, something I've always wanted to see, and now that day is here. And as it iterates on the project and it gets even better, I'll probably update the video. But I hope you guys enjoyed this one, because I was about as excited to talk about an N64 static recomp as I ever was, basically the Bomberman Hero stages. But I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.